So, you're back to join me drinking ramen, eating chocolate, and learning more Japanese for dummies. But that's okay, because just like me, you're a beginner as well, hopefully. That you've come to judge me for learning, and shame on you for judging. My voice is absolutely ruined. I've had a long day doing a lot of talking, and I thought, what better way to articulate that than to do more talking. So that's what we're going to do. I have had a long day, but I feel like this is just something I really want to do. So we are going to crack on. We're on chapter 3 now. If I can even find the part in the book. Chapter 8, we are not at that level yet. Let's start at our own level. Chapter 4, chapter 3. Hope everyone's had a great day. I know I've had a long and stressful one. That's the beauty of coming over to watch videos, isn't it? Hopefully something quite relaxing. Hopefully my voice is quite relaxing. I know my voice has really taken a dive after all the talking I've done today. Imagine 9 hours of non-stop talking, and almost 9 hours of full-on talking. That's a lot of talking. I know I would love to say I get bored of my own voice, but I don't. It's a lie. I love my voice. With all this, don't get bored of this. Be proud of yourself. Love yourself. You're a good person. Anyway, warming up with Japanese grammar basics. This is where we're at. We're at chapter 3 now. Chapter 3. Okay. If grammar rules are the branches of a tree, words are the tree's beautiful leaves. Checking the branches before enjoying those leaves is the shortcut to the success in understanding the entire tree. This chapter shows you what the branches of the Japanese language tree look like. You discover the importance. I sound so sexy. Welcome to the rock. Yeah. Anyway, as well as how to form sentences and ask basic questions. You also find out the basics of parts of a speech, such as pronouns, verbs, adjective, and adverbs. All that and more await you in this overview of Japanese grammar basics. Okay, so the Japanese use different speech styles depending on who they are talking to. For example, you ask a simple question like, "Did you see it?" Apparently, differently to different people. They say things differently to different people. My mind, I'll wake up, I swear. When speaking to your boss, use the formal style of speech and say, "Goran ni narimashita ka." Okay. "Goran ni narimashita ka." When speaking to your colleague, use the polite, neutral style and say, "Mimashiten ka." And with your kids, use the plain, informal style and say, "Mite no." Notice the phrase becomes shorter and shorter as you go down in the relative hierarchy from your boss to your kids. So it's "Goran ni narimashita ka," "Mimashita ka," and "Mito no." If you use the plain and formal style of speech with your boss, he or she will probably start looking for some official reason to kick you out of his or her group. So no saying "mito no," "mito no" to your boss. Don't do that. You might find your job was short-lived, and if you really liked it, silly. You'll sound like a commoner whose daughter got married to a royal prince. Well, okay. Look at all this royal prince material. Anyway, the tricky part of choosing the correct speech style is that the choice depends on both social hierarchy in terms of position and age, and social grouping, such as insiders and outsiders. Depending on the audience, the informal forms can sound rude or very friendly. The formal forms can sound very polite or awfully cold. In some cases, which style you should use can be very unclear. What if your assistant is older than you are? What if your son is your boss? Fair. These scenarios are where your personality can influence your speech style. Different people treat them in different ways, even in Japan. If you don't want to offend anyone, your best bet is to use the polite version, at least at the beginning, and we get a table 3.1, and we get general guidelines on when to use which speech style. I swear I mix this up with Japanese. I do. It's just I want to get everything in. I'm reading the book. I want to be like it's an actual study session. It's a quick little side note as well. We've got Detective Bamboo though. Lost his slippers today. Silly panda. Silly panda. Let me know what your favourite animal is. Mine's a panda, obviously. So, we have speech styles. Who to use it with. Formal. Your business, customer, a person who's much older than you, or your boss or your teacher. Your classmates. This is polite neutral. Your classmate, your colleague, your neighbour, your acquaintance, your friend's parent. Friend's parent. Plain informal. Your parent, your child, your spouse, your student, your assistant, your close friend. Your assistant. I suppose if you're quite a friendly person with assistants and whatnot. Fair enough. I didn't know that. Cool. So in this book, they use the speech style appropriate to the context. But don't worry, you can tell the difference after you learn the basic verb forms. So we are going to learn basic verb forms. Grand. As you're beginning your Japanese study, my advice is to start from the polite, neutral style and gradually play with the formal and plain, informal styles. That was a bit of a tongue twister. Forming sentences. It took me about 20 months to start forming a Japanese sentence. We are going to have a long journey. I hope you're going to stay with me for this journey. After I was born, 20 months. I was, oh, wait. Maybe not this kind of journey. We're not doing anything relating to birth. So I was, okay, we're going to ignore all that. You're saying a lot of the time, following sections cover the most important points for creating Japanese sentences. So this part is quite important. I hope you've been following. We're going to be using the next parts for creating Japanese sentences. Ordering the words correctly. The basic word order in English is subject, verb, object. But the order in Japanese is subject, object, verb. Instead of saying I watched TV, you say I TV watched. Instead of saying I ate sushi, you say I sushi ate. Now you know the pattern. So repeat after me. Put the verb at the end. The verb at the end. Go ahead and try it. I sake drank. I karaoke did. And I money lost. Good. You, the basic word order in Japanese, have. I feel like this is like Yoda. So I imagine if you've ever watched Star Wars, think Yoda, and that's basically the Japanese language. Well, that way of ordering, like the phrases, getting the verb at the end. Verb at the end. So, making nouns with particles. Subject, object, verb is the basic word order in Japanese. But object, subject, verb is also okay. As long as the verb is at the end of the sentence, Japanese grammar teachers are happy. For example, if Mary invited John, you can say either Mary John invited or John Mary invited in Japanese. Like I said, as long as the verb is at the end, the order of the phrases doesn't matter. Although it sounds great, a smart person like you may be saying, wait a minute. How do you know who invited whom? The secret is that Japanese use a little tag called a particle right after each noun phrase. The particle for the action performer is ga, and the particle for the action receiver is o. So, both of the following sentences mean Mary invited John. Good on them. Mary ga John o sashu. Oh, that was a sasoe mashita. Sasoi mashita. Mary ga John o sashio mashita. Or John o Mary ga sashio imashita. John o Mary ga sashoi mishita. In other words, ga is the subject marking particle, and o is the direct object marking particle. They can't be translated into English. Sorry, it's just Japanese. All other Japanese particles include kara, made, ni, de, to, and ka. Luckily, they can be translated into English words like from, until, to, with, by, at, in, on, and or. But each particle is translated differently depending on the context. For example, the particle de corresponds to in, by, or with in English, depending on the context. Bosuton de benkyo shimasu. I'll study in Boston. Bosuton de benkyo shimasu. I'll study in Boston. Takushi de ikimasu. I'll go by taxi. Takushi de ikimasu. I'll go by taxi. Forku de tabemasu. I'll eat with a fork. Forku de tabemasu. I'll eat with a fork. Okay. So, next up we've got a few extra words. Here we go. John ga kita. John came. John ga kita. John came. Mary ga John o sasota. Mary invited John. Mary ga John o sasota. Mary invited John. Kuji kara benkyo shita. I studied from 9. Kuji kara benkyo shita. I studied from 9. Sanji made benkyo shita. I studied until 3. Sanji made benkyo shita. I studied until 3. Nihon ni ita. I went to Japan. Nihon ni ita. I went to Japan. Ototo nihon o agete. I gave the book to my little brother. Ototo nihon o agete. I gave the book to my little brother. Ani wa Tokyo ni iru. My brother is in Tokyo. Ani wa Tokyo ni iru. My brother is in Tokyo. Sanji ni tsuita. I arrived at 3. Okay, I'm getting the hang of this. Sanji ni tsuita. I arrived at 3. Tokyo I ita. I went towards or to Tokyo. Tokyo I ita. I went towards Tokyo. Cool. Bosuton de benkyo shita. I studied in Boston. Bosuton de benkyo shita. I studied in Boston. That'd be kind of cool. Where in the world would someone want to study? I mean, I would love to study around the world and do all sorts of wonderful, cool things. The world is a wonderful place to explore. Yeah, let me know if there's any particular place you really want to study in the world. I'm guessing watching this video, if you do watch this video and you do want to put a comment down, you'll probably say somewhere in Japan, and that is fantastic. I'd definitely say go for it. I've got some university books from Nagoya, the university in Nagoya, over there. At some point or another, we will do videos on those. I'm starting at entry level here, even though that's kind of like from basic to fluent. But baby steps, because I have no real clue. So I'm just going forwards. Cool. So Takushi de ita. I went there by taxi. Takushi de ita. I went there by taxi. Forku de tabete. I ate with a fork. Forku de tabete. I ate with a fork. Mary no hon. Mary's book. Mary no hon. Mary's book. Nihongo no hon. A Japanese language book. Nihongo no hon. A Japanese language book. Cool. So Sushi to sashimi to tempura o tabete. I ate sushi, sashimi, and tempura. I've had all of those in the same meal before, and absolutely fantastic. The tempura, oh, vegetable tempura, sweet potato tempura, oh, it's amazing. Nihon, oh wait, no, we've gone too far. Oh, have we? Not have we? Sushi to sashimi to tempura o tabete. I ate sushi, sashimi, and tempura. John ga Mary ta utata. John sang with Mary. What a guy. John ga Mary to utata. Tomu wa Maiku ta nite iru. Tom resembles Mike. Tomu wa Maiku to nite iru. Tom resembles Mike. Tokyo wa kyonen ita. Speaking of Tokyo, I went there last year. Tokyo wa kyonen ita. Speaking of Tokyo, I went there last year. I've never been, but I will definitely be going extremely soon. So if anyone's ever gone, if you'd be very keen on reading comments, pop a comment down. Let's read some comments about your journey in Japan, and if there's any recommendations, love a recommendation. Cool. So you can have a bunch of particles in a sentence, as the following sentences illustrate. Mary ga kuruma de Tokyo I ita. Mary went to Tokyo by car. Mary ga kuruma de Tokyo e ita. Mary went to Tokyo by car. John no otou-san kara biru to osake to wine o marata. Wine. Okay. I received beer, sake, and wine from John's dad. John no otou-san ka biru to osake to wine o morata. I received a beer, sake, and wine from John's dad. You look at me like that for? You ain't getting that beer. Japanese nouns don't need articles like a and the in English. Furthermore, you don't need to specify singular or plural. Tamago is either an egg or eggs. That's interesting. That actually does help with past, present, and future phrases, I hope so. So, telling the topic. English doesn't have a topic phrase, but if you put topic phrase at the beginning of whatever you say in Japanese, you can sound a lot more like native Japanese speaker. Japanese just love to mention topics at the beginning of their sentences. At the very beginning of a sentence, clarify what you're talking about. In other words, state the topic of the sentence. You need to provide the listener with a heads up. What I'll say from now is about a topic. As for topic, or speaking of topic, use the particle wa to mark the topic word. Sorry, but use the hiragana, not the wa, to represent the particle. So this is, again, if you're going to read. My voice, it's like sandpaper scratching my throat. Dedication. The following sentences differ in what the speaker is talking about. The statement can be about what happened yesterday, about what happened to the teacher, or about what happened to John, depending on what precedes wa. Kino wa sensei ga John o shikate. As for yesterday, what happened is that the teacher scolded John. For shame, John. Kino wa sensei ga John o shikata. As for yesterday, what happened is that the teacher scolded John. Sensei wa kino John o shikata. As for the teacher, what he did yesterday was to scold John. Sensei wa kino John o shikata. As for the teacher, what he did yesterday was to scold John. John wa sensei ga kino shikata. As for John, what happened to him was that the teacher scolded him yesterday. John wa sensei ga kino shikata. As for John, what happened to him yesterday was what happened to him was that the teacher scolded him yesterday. My mind is like rewiring to read this. Any noun can be the topic. The subject noun can be the topic, and the object noun can be the topic too. When a noun is both the subject of the sentence and the topic of the sentence, use only the topic particle wa, never gawa, to mark the noun as both the subject and the topic. In the same way, when a noun is a direct object as well as the topic, mark it with just wa, never with o and wa. However, wa can follow other particles as in ni wa and di wa. Or de wa. Pardon me. Ramune. You may have the impression that Japanese people are diligent and hard-working, and that is certainly true in many areas. But when it comes to speaking, the Japanese use the minimum number of words necessary to convey their meaning. Minimalist speaking is the Japanese way. One way to pare down... I'm reading this like a Japanese speaker. One way to pare down sentences is to drop pronouns and words that are understood in the context, and Japanese drop both almost all the time. As a result, you often hear sentences without a subject, a direct object, a time phrase, or a location phrase. A sentence that consists of just the verb, or a question that consists of just the topic, isn't uncommon. For example, you don't need to say the words and phrases in the parentheses of the Chinese part of the following mini dialogues. Kino wa tenisu o shimashita ka. Kino wa tenis o shimashita ka. Did you play tennis yesterday? Kino wa tenis o shimashita ka. Did you play tennis yesterday? Hai. Watashi wa kino tenisu shimashita. Yes, I played tennis yesterday. Or you can just say hai shimashita by the looks of this, which is, yeah, I did, yeah. Hai. Watashi wa kino tenisu shimashita. I apologize if I say these terribly. Anata wa kyo watashi no uchi ni kimasu ka? Will you come to my house today? Anata wa kyo watashi no uchi ni kimasu ka? Will you come to my house today? Hi. Yes. Let's do it. You'll bring in the drinks and food, and I'll bring the fun. I'll bring the fun. Ii desu ne. Oh, that's great. Ii desu ne. That's great. Asking questions. If you can form a sentence, you can easily form a question in Japanese. Unlike in English, you don't have to invert the subject and verb when you ask a question in Japanese. And you don't use question marks either. How you form a question depends on whether you are expecting a yes or no answer, or a specific piece of information such as name, place, date, or person. I discuss each case in the following subsections. Yes-no questions. To form a question that you expect a yes or no answer to, just add the question particle ka at the end of the sentence and use a rising intonation, just as you do in English. For example, John wa kimasu. John wa kimasu. John wa kimasu means John will come. And John wa kimasu ka? John wa kimasu ka means John will John come? Content questions. To ask a question that expects specific information or content as an answer, use a question word in addition to the question particle ka at the end of a sentence. Just like in English, you use different questions words depending on what you're asking. Table 3.3 provides more information on question words. Dare is who. Dare is who. Doko, where. Doko, where. Donata, who. Donata, who. This is the polite form. Dore, which one. Dore, which one. Do, how. Do, how. Ikura, how much. Ikura, how much. Itsu, when. Itsu, when. Nani, what. Nani, what. Here are a few examples of content questions so you can see question words in action. Party na wa dare ta ikimasu ka? Who will you go to the party with? Party ni wa Party ni wa dare ta ikimasu ka? Who will you go to the party with? Kino wa nani o shimashita ka? What did you do yesterday? Kino wa nani o shimashita ka? What did you do yesterday? Sono bagu wa ikura desu ka? How much is that bag? Sono bagu wa ikura desu ka? How much is that bag? Okay. Kino no party wa dare ga kimashita ka? Who came to the parties? Who came to yesterday's party? Kino no party wa dare ga kimashita ka? Or ka? Maybe ka? Gotta try to get the right way of saying that. John to Mary ga kimashita. John and Mary came. John to Mary ga kimashita. So desu ka. Oh, really? So the key words to know here are kino, which is yesterday. Kuru, to come. Party is a party. Getting a handle on pronouns. Pronouns are convenient shorthand for nouns that both English and Japanese make good use of. Check out the following instruction where I italicized all the pronouns. Mix those together like this, leave it right there for a while, and give it to him with that. Makes you realize how convenient pronouns are, doesn't it? And take it from me, they become even more useful when your short-term memory worsens as you age and start referring to everything as wow. In my job, you hear a lot about getting old and you shouldn't do it and you need to avoid it, and it's always a lovely little joke. But even the books are telling me I shouldn't be getting old. Tell that to time. Tell time to stop making me get older. Demonstrative pronouns seem like much too big a phrase to talk about 4 little words. This, that, these, and those. Think about the donut shop. I lost my track now. What was I saying? This is what happens. They unleash donut shop on you, and then you point at all the goodies and say, "I want 6 of these." Whoa, 2 of whoa, and that big whoa. You use demonstrative pronouns to point verbally. In Japanese, things are just a little bit more complicated than they are in English. Suppose that you are the speaker and your girlfriend is the listener, and just the 2 of you are sitting face to face at a cozy table in a fancy restaurant. How the other half on your girlfriend's side is her territory. Territory is a strange word in this context, but it gives you a clear idea. Any other tables in the restaurant are outside of both your territories. With these boundaries drawn, you can use the following pronouns when referring to various foods throughout the restaurant. Kore, things in your territory. Sore, things in her territory. You can be saying sorry a lot. Are, things outside of both your territories. Are is things outside both your territories. Sore is things in her territory. And kore is things in your territory. Do you get the idea? If you do, you can understand. Who is eating taco, octopus? Who is eating ika, which is squid? And who is eating awabi, which is abalone? I don't know what that is. At the Japanese restaurant in the following Talking the Talk dialogue. Okay. So this is the Talking the Talk dialogue. Maybe I should put on... Oh, no. Maybe I'll do a voice next time, because these are like little conversations that you can have. But these are from the CD that I got with the book. When my voice is better and I haven't talked for years, I will put on little voices. Why not? Let's have a bit of fun with it. Ramune is the one. This is original flavor. Fantastic. The one thing I absolutely love about ramen is the little marble inside of these genius. I don't understand why it's there, but at the same time, I'm happy that it is. It's one of those things, you know. It's the small things in life. You have to appreciate all the small things. Appreciate the small things one another. Okay. So, next up. Michelle and Brandon are sitting at a table in a fancy restaurant, eating sashimi, which is sliced raw seafood. Seafood can look similar when sliced, which may account for Michelle and Brandon's confusion. Sore, this is Brandon. Sore wa ike desu ka? Is that squid? Sore wa ike desu ka? Is that squid? Ie, kore wa taco desu. Sore wa ike desu ka? No, this one is octopus. Is that one squid? This is Michelle, by the way. Ie, kore wa taco desu. Sore wa ike desu ka? No, this one is octopus. Is that one squid? And back to Brandon. Hi, kore wa ike desu ka? Yes, this one is squid. Hi, kore wa ike desu ka? Or ike. Oh, I'm saying desu ka all the time now. Yes, this one is squid, without the question mark. Back to Michelle. Ya, awa nan desu ka? Then what is that one over there? Ja, are wa nan desu ka? Then what is that one over there? What is that one over there? He knows. She knows something. She knows something. Brandon. Are wa awabi desu? That one over there is abalone. Are wa awabi desu? That one over there is abalone. What is abalone? Abalone? I don't know. I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right. So, important words to know. Sore is that one near you or her territory. Ika, squid. Deso or desu, to be. Kore, this one. Taco, octopus. Are, that one over there. Or in things outside your territory. Awabi, abalone. Oh, it's a type of shellfish. Oh, okay. Now we know. Abalone is a type of shellfish. So, just to reiterate. Sore, that one. Ika, squid. Deso, or desu, to be. Kore, this one. Taco, octopus. Takoyaki. Makes sense now. Octopus balls. Oh, I should edit that one out. Are, that one. Abalone, awabi. Okay, so personal pronouns. The first person singular pronoun in Japanese is watashi, and it corresponds to the English I and me. Japanese does have other personal pronouns which you can check out in table 3-4. So in table 3-4 we have watashi, which is I, me. Watashi tachi, we or us. Watashi tachi, which is we and us. Anata, which is you, singular. Anata, which is you. Anata tachi, which is you, plural, several. Kare, he or him. Karera, they, them, male and mixed genders. Karera, them, they, and mixed genders. Kanojo, she or her. Kanojo, she or her. Kanojoro, kanojotachi, they or them, it's female. Kanojora, kanojotachi, they, them, female. Although the first person singular pronoun is typically watashi, you can say I, me, more than one. The formal version of watashi or watakushi, men say boku in informal and neutral contexts. In informal contexts, some men say ore, some older men say washi, and some young women say atashi. I would say ore wa Wayne desu. Hajimemashite, dozo yoroshiku. Boom. Never use ore, washi. Okay. Never use ore, washi, and atashi when talking to your teacher, boss, customer, or client. Boku isn't that bad, but watashi is safer in formal situations. Fair enough. Uh, Japanese use the first person pronouns repeatedly in conversations, but they don't often use other pronouns. In fact, they use anata. The use of anata is almost forbidden. The person who says anata sounds snobby, arrogant, or just foreign. So how can you ask a question like, will you go there, without using anata? One strategy is to drop the pronoun. Okay, don't you tell me the pronoun. Just use the verb and the question particle ikimasu ka. Will you go there? Ikimasu ka. Will you go there? Another strategy to avoid anata is to repeatedly use the person's name. You can use Yoko. This question, Yoko-san wa ikimasu ka? Literally is like, Yoko. Is Yoko going? Is she going? The Japanese language places a lot of emphasis on verbs. Verbs not only express certain actions or states of being, but also indicate social status, respect, and humility. You can often tell whether Japanese are talking to an esteemed guest, a colleague, or spouse, or even a dog, just by the verb they use. Throughout this book, I use examples of plain informal verbs, polite neutral verbs, and formal verbs. However, the most common verbs are in the plain, informal, and polite neutral categories. It's quite a polite language, but people prefer to tend to stick to the formal, polite mannerisms that I gather from this book. I'm not making assumptions. I am just using evidence that I've been given from the book. Blame the book. If there's any problems, although the book is actually very useful, don't blame the book. But blame the book. But don't blame the book. So how do I conjugate these verbs, you ask? Good news. You don't need to conjugate the verbs based on person, gender, or number in Japanese. You can use the same form of verb regardless of who's performing the action. For example, you use the verb taberu, whether you want to say I eat, you eat, he eats, she eats, or they eat. That's great, you're thinking. No conjugation tables to memorize. But not so fast. I'm not saying that Japanese verbs don't conjugate at all. They do. In this section, I walk you through the various conjugations, showing you how to create present, past, negative, and polite verbs and combinations of these. If you get confused, ignore that and just be mad at me. But don't be mad at me. Cool. So, Japanese speakers use 4 basic verb forms frequently: the dictionary form, the nai form, the stem form, and the te form. The other forms of a verb can be easily created by making a minor adjustment to one of these forms. Throughout the book, when I introduce a new verb, I give you these 4 forms in this order. Dictionary, nai, stem, and te forms, along with the pronunciation. After the stem form, I add mas masu, because you will be hearing this form with masu all the time. The following is an example of taberu, tabenai, tabemasu, tabete. Okay. We're gonna get there. Cool. So, dictionary form. The dictionary form, or plain present affirmative, is kind of like an infinitive in English, but without the to. You see this form, the verb form, when you look up words in the dictionary. All dictionary forms end in one of these syllables: bu, mu, nu, gu, ku, ru, su, tsu, and u. Do you notice they all end in the vowel u? You use the dictionary form when the verb is placed before a noun or some particle, as well as before some grammatical items listed in the expressing moods and attitudes section and the adverb-like sentences section later in this chapter. Just watch out. Using a dictionary form at the end of a sentence makes you sound rude in a formal context. You can use it without worry in an informal context, like when you're talking to your family, friends, or pet. Nai form. The nai form, or plain present negative, is the negative counterpart of the dictionary form. For example, if the dictionary form means I do, the nai form means I don't. All nai forms end in nai. My voice is... Sorry, my voice is really struggling. Okay. Why are you judging me? So, cool. The stem form. The stem form is the shortest pronounceable form of a verb, and it can be tightly combined with grammatical items such as mas, nagara, ni, and tai, and with the words such as nikui, sugiru, suzukuru, and yasui, just to name a few, to form a compound verb or adjective. To show you what they mean, check out the following examples featuring tabe, the stem form of the verb taberu. Tabemas, to eat politely. Tabemasu, to eat polite. Tabenagara, while eating. Tabeni, in order to eat. Tabetai, tabetai, I want to eat. To want to eat. Tabe nikui, to be difficult to eat. Tabe sugiru, to eat too much. Tabe suzukeru, to continue to eat. Tabe yasuri, to be easy to eat. Because the stem form is used right before the most frequently used verb suffix mas, it's also called the premasu form. The speaking politely section in this chapter for more about masu. The te form. Called the te form because it ends in te, or its variant de. This verb form means do and is used to connect the verb with other verbs and adjectives. For example, to connect the three verbs tabaru, nomu, which is to drink, and neru, to sleep, to mean to eat, drink, and go to bed. That's kind of cool. Tabaru, nomu, neru. Eat, drink, and sleep. Cool. Anyway. Te forms are also necessary right before many auxiliary verbs such as kudasai, iru, miru, oku, and shimau, which refine what the speaker wants to express. See how these auxiliary verbs can follow tabete, the te form of the verb taberu. Tabete kudasai, please eat. Tabete kudasai, please eat. Tabete iru, to be eating. Tabete miru, to try eating. Tabete oku, to eat in advance. Tabete shimau, to eat up. I can kind of get how these are all coming together. I hope that I'm bringing this across in at least an interesting way. And I hope you're at least, even if you're not enjoying my verbs, especially my voice when I'm sounding this amazingly sexy and awesome, then I hope you're at least enjoying the fact that I'm saying things in Japanese. Fantastic. I hope you really are learning. So I am using this to help study as well. So, and I find it better learning, helping other people learn. So, hopefully this is helping somebody else learn, or at least they're enjoying my English accent. I don't know. Even if it sounds dreadful right now, but it doesn't sound dreadful. It sounds amazing. As in English, Japanese has regular and irregular verbs. All regular verbs conjugate according to the predictable pattern, whereas irregular verbs deviate from the pattern to create a lesser extent. Luckily, most verbs are regular. The following sections help you conjugate various kinds of verbs in the past and present, as well as form negative verbs. Regular verbs come in two basic types: ru verbs and u verbs. Before you can conjugate any regular verb, you have to determine which type you're dealing with. If you don't see iru or eru at the end of a dictionary form or of a verb, you can relax and trust that it's an u verb. If the verb ends in iru or eru, you need to be if you don't, okay, you need to be on alert because it can be either a ru verb or an u verb. For example, keru is either a ru verb meaning change or an u verb meaning go home. Similarly, kiru is either a ru verb meaning wear or an u verb meaning cut. The distinction is important because these verbs conjugate differently depending on the form. Ru verbs are sort of more stable verbs conjugation wise because the stem form appears in every form. U verbs are a bit more complex. They add one more sound or one more syllable to the nai stem and tem forms. Okay. So, the meanings, dictionary form, nai form, stem form, and te form. To eat, taberu, tabenai, tabe, tabete. To eat, taberu, tabenai, tabe, tabete. To change, keiru, kainei, nai, kei, kaite. To change, keiru, kainai, nai, kei, kaite. To wear, kiru, kinai, ki, kite. To wear, kiru, kinai, ki, kite. To speak, hanasi, hanasanai, hanashi, hanashite. To speak, hanasi, hanasanai, hanashi, hanashite. To write, kaku, kakanai, kaki, kaiti, kaite, kaite, kaite. To write, kaku, kakanai, kaki, kaiti, kaite. I can't stop looking at anything like that in English. To swim, oyugu, oyogo, oyugo, oyugu, oyugu, oyugunai, oyogi, oyode, oyugu, oyogunai, nai, oyogi, oyoidi, oide. To drink, nomu, nomonai, nomi, nonde. To drink, nomu, nomonai, nomi, nonde. To jump, tobu, tobunai, tobi, tonde. To jump, tobu, tobunai, tobi, tonde. To die, shinu, shinai, shinanai, shini, shinde. To die, shinu, shinanai, shini, shinde. To buy, kau, kawanai, kai, kate. To buy, kau, kawanai, kai, kate. To cut, kiru, kirunai, kiri, kite. To cut, kiru, kirunai, kiri, kite. To take, toru, toru noi, tori, tote. To take, toru, toru noi, tori, tote. To go home, kaeru, kaerinei, kairi, kaite. To go home, kaeru, kairanai, kairi, kaite. To wait, matsu, matani, machi, mate. To wait, matsu, matanai, machi, mate. to exist. Inanimate objects, by the looks of this. Aru, nai, ari, ate. To exist. Aru, nai, ari, ate. To come. Kuru, konai, ki, kite. To come. Kuru, konai, ki, kite. To do. Suru, shinai, shi, shite. To do. Suru, shinai, shi, shite. To go. Iku, ikanai, iki, ite. To go. Iku, ikanai, iki, ite. To conjugate a ru verb, you drop the ru at the end of its dictionary form and add something or nothing. By contrast, to conjugate an u verb, you drop the u and always add something. Maybe we should call them ru dropping verbs and u dropping verbs. First drop something and then add something or nothing. For conjugating a verb, check the ending syllable and the type of verb and then follow the pattern of one of the verbs in table 3.5. But which one? This is like a little, if no consonant precedes the last vowel itself and links. Oh, okay, it's just that. Naive forms and stem forms are pretty easy to make, but tef forms aren't if the verb is the u verb. Here are some of the rules of thumb that can make Japanese verb conjugations easier. So this is important. For u verbs whose dictionary forms end in u, ru, or tsu, replace these endings syllables with te. For u verbs whose dictionary forms end in mu, nu, bu, replace these endings syllables with nde. For u verbs whose dictionary forms end in su, replace su with shite. For u verbs whose dictionary forms end in ku or gu, replace them with ite and ide, respectively. For the two major irregular verbs, kuru, to come, and suru, to do, as well as the verb iku, to go, simply remember their te forms, which are the kite and shite and ite forms. For ru verbs, just replace the ru at the end of the dictionary form with te. Deciding between present and past tense. Japanese verbs have two tenses, present and past. However, these grammar terms are misleading. Present tense in Japanese refers to the actions that regularly take place or will take place in the future, which makes the verb tabaru not just I eat, but also I will eat. For this reason, some people call the present tense the non-past tense. Usually, the context tells you which meaning the verb is expressing, as in English, the present tense often doesn't refer to this very moment, but to some habitual action such as I will eat dinner every day at 6. Forming the present and past tenses. Creating the present tense of the Japanese verb is a no-brainer. It's just dictionary form. If you know the verb's tef form, expressing that verb in the past tense is still pretty easy. You can simply change the final vowel because you're amazing. Working with the tef form, you're always changing to an e or an a. For example, tabete becomes tabeta. 8 and nonde becomes nonda, which is drank. Creating negative past tense verbs. In order to say that you didn't do something in the past, you need to be able to fashion verbs together into their negative past forms. No problem, it's easy. Simply take the nai form, drop the final vowel e, and add kata. For example, tabenai becomes tabenekata, which is I didn't eat as opposed to I don't eat, which is pretty cool. We are going to leave it there. My voice has just burnt, but we are most of the way through chapter 3. If you liked it and you're leaving it on to help you sleep, sweet dreams, pleasant dreams, all that good stuff. Thank you for spending time with me on my study session. I am absolutely cream cracked, and I am going to rest. And thank you for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully my voice hasn't drowned on and on and on. And leave a like. chuck a comment in there. Anything Japanese based, anything you want to share, anything fun and exciting. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll check you out in the next video when we do more study sessions, and when I get the opportunity to, with my literature course that's coming up as well. I'm also going to read other books too, things like Macbeth and The Farm by George Orwell and Thomas Hoyer, I believe it is. So if you're looking forward to that and want to hear the English accent reading a book, then I'm your guy. Come back for more. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that button. Be somewhere.